everything I've ever thought about myself is a lie. So I think 5-year-old Carla was a bit confused and needed comfort. And her comfort came from, I was doing this as the ultimate act of self-care. Somebody getting out of the sea in a bikini who's a size 10 is a beached whale. They were a big trigger for me, trigger food. So when I was losing weight, I removed them completely. Yes, we may be victims, but we don't have to live in a victim mentality. And we have the power to overcome whatever we're feeling. It's so weird to me, Jo, to meet somebody who doesn't know that I used to be 23 stone. I think a lot of people think, what's wrong with me? But the actual question we should be asking is, what happened to me?
Exercise is not about losing weight. It's about enjoying who you are. It's about being with the body you've got. It's about,
I would hug her and I would tell her that it's okay and that you are valuable, that you don't have to be anything except you. And just give her a hug and let her know that she is a valuable person.
Okay, so Carla, welcome to the No Filter Zone. This is the place where we have unfiltered conversations about what it is to be a woman in the 21st century. I've been so excited to talk to you because you embody success in an area that so many women and men, but women find almost impossible. You've lost over half your body weight. Shall we start there? How did you go about doing that?
First of all, thank you very much for having me, Jo. But if we think about it, you know, we only have an hour and a bit and I have to condense my life story into a very short amount of time. And anyway, let's think about it. So I think when people look at me, they think that I've lost a lot of weight very fast, because I did. I lost 13 stone in 14 months. However, there was a long period of time leading up to that, which was important to change a lot of different things. The reason I share what I do is because I want people to know that weight loss is not about our body most of the time. It's not about eat more, move less. We all know eat more, move less, but whether we're able to eat more and move less and how we do that in a healthy way that is going to lead us to lifelong weight maintenance, because that's what we're all looking for, isn't it? To never have to lose weight ever again. I had been overweight my whole life since I was a very young child. I've always had some kind of disordered eating. It continued on into my teenage years when I developed into bulimia and then into binge eating disorder. And I'd always wanted to lose weight, but I'd always been the biggest in my class. So if you think, you know, back to, we're talking about the late 90s, the early 2000s, there was no body positivity. There was no, you know, plus size models. These things didn't exist. And I was probably as a teenager already a size 16 to 18. I remember even being 10 years old and not being able to fit into an adult size 8. So I've always been overweight. I tried to lose weight so many times, like every single Monday morning. I, you know, was starting on some kind of diet from a very young age, or I was joining every one of the traditional weight loss clubs that there are and all these, you know, these usual things. And I had tried so many times and had a little bit of success with Atkins back in the day when I was 18.
That's the low carb.
That's, yeah, what's now keto. There was a lot of very famous celebrities were doing it back in the day. And I did. I lost 6.5 stone and, you know, but then I ate some bread and put it all back on again. So, you know, it wasn't a method of sustainable weight maintenance. And I figured there had to be something wrong with, you know, with me. There had to be like a physical issue that was wrong with me. And so I decided that because my thyroid was fine, there had to be something else. And I knew all of my friends who were celiac were really slim. So I was like, I must be celiac. That has to be it. I used to eat pasta and I'd feel really bloated after it. So I went to my GP and I was like, I know what it is. I figured it out. And I sat down and I said, I need help. And instead of saying, I think I'm celiac, I just blurted out like word vomit, like, I need help. And at that point, he diagnosed me with binge eating disorder at 22 22, 23, 24, something around that time. All of that time is a big blur to me. He said to me something then that planted a seed that would take maybe another 10 years to grow. And he said, when you fix the head, the weight will just fall off.
Oh, I love him.
He is a gem, a rare gem in some cases, but I don't know about here, but in Ireland, we don't always get the most supportive GPs, but my gosh, is he amazing. When he said that to me, I was like, well, what is this crazy man talking about? This is nothing to do with the head. This is my body. My body is the problem. This is what's wrong with me. This is betraying me. He sent me then to psychology, to clinical psychology, referred me in, and I went to 2 different psychologists. It took me about 3 years, and I healed my relationship with binge eating disorder. So I haven't binged since then. And now I realize that, the reason I was feeling so bloated after pasta is because I was probably eating enough pasta for 4 or 5, 6 people.
Okay. So you didn't have a gluten intolerance?
No, I had
You just ate too much pasta.
Right. And as we all know, if you eat too much pasta, you're going to feel pretty bloated.
Yeah.
But, that was what...
But it's nice stuff, so I can, I get it.
I had plenty of pasta last night,
Yeah,
and I love it. But then I went to the psychologist, worked through my relationship with binge eating disorder, realized that we actually did relationship therapy, which was interesting, where we looked at the relationship between myself and food, as opposed to like relationships between a couple or, family members. It was looking at my relationship towards food, and a lot of hard work, but was worth the work. But I still was overweight. I still wasn't able to lose weight. I had, had a little bit of minor success, a couple of pounds, like 30 pounds at one point, then put it back on again. And at the time, then I met my lovely partner, Vincent, and I was going up and up and up in weight. And we were moving out of our home, and we were buying our first house together. We started doing this thing called morning pages. I'm not sure if you're familiar with.
I know the morning pages. Yeah.
With Julia Cameron. I had been very successful in a marketing campaign that I did running my charity that I used to work for. And the morning pages in Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way, is to help you to kind of connect back in with your inner artist and to help bring ideas forward. So I figured, let's do this and try and get this campaign, get something good again, because I had run out of all my creative juice at that point, and I had a lot of pressure on me to do something successful again. And at the same time, I was telling myself how horrible I was. This was a fluke. You're never going to be able to do this again. Like you weren't actually successful. It was, everything else. Everybody else was successful. This was nothing to do with you, etc., etc. Through the morning pages, I realized now for the first time to connect with myself, my real self, who I am. It was the first time I'd ever allowed myself to be unedited. The first time I'd ever actually connected with myself and let that person out, as opposed to the persona I had put on for the world, and many different personas we have when we interact with many different people. But I was always so edited. I was always so worried about what everybody else thought about me, what I thought people were thinking about me. And by connecting with myself and letting that out on paper, things started to stir within me. So I think probably when you ask me how did I lose weight, most people will say that they did some kind of diet and exercise, but actually my weight loss came from inside me. I realized at one point after doing the morning pages that all of a sudden I realized everything I've ever thought about myself is a lie. This isn't me. This voice in my head does not belong to me. It's a culmination of society around me, the ring of shame, the Bridget Jones is obese, you remember it. And it's still there, but it's not as obvious as it was.
Well, it's not PC to say it anymore.
Exactly. But
it's still there.
Exactly. It's still there, but it's not as commonplace on the front of magazines anymore. Like, somebody getting out of the sea in a bikini who's a size 10 is a beached whale, this kind of thing. So at that point, then that's a combination. I realized that plus, people who've been in my life and things you start to create a narrative about yourself from a very young age. And that narrative was then reinforced constantly by society and by the people around you. And then that was the narrative that lived in my head. We all have a voice in our head, or many voices. And I had this voice that was telling me how awful I was. And I realized that I was using that voice then to escape or using food to escape that voice. So I went back to that GP, that same man, and he said, there it is. The Damascus moment, the point where everything clears up, where you finally realized that this is about the head. So back to therapy I went. This time I did a thing called sensory motor psychotherapy. Really interesting concept where your body remembers what you have forgotten, which is very true. Our body holds the trauma, and releasing that and working on releasing that. And it was an incredibly painful experience. When I talk about that realization, sometimes it feels like the inner me was jolted. It's funny, there's a blue light behind you. And like for me, the real me is connected with blue. That's why I wore blue today. It's this kind of light that I never felt. I felt very dark on the inside. And when I had that realization, it was as if my inner being was jolted. Like everything in me just was shifted. And it was very difficult to learn to put it back together again, to put that energy back into who I am and to learn who I was for the first time. After a couple of months of therapy, I was like, you know what? I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to lose weight. I'm ready to take off this body I have created. And not from a place of shame, not from a place of berating myself or thinking I'm disgusting or punishing myself by trying to lose weight. I was doing this as the ultimate act of self-care. I deserve to live in the body that I want to, and my body is my friend. I don't know if you've ever seen that. I think it's a quote, and it's, and I said to my body, I want to be your friend. And she replied, I've waited my whole life for this.
At last, yeah.
That's it. So,
this is why you're so fascinating though, because, I've worked as a coach for 12 years. I've written a book all about that negative narrator, the inner critic. And I know categorically that everything starts in the mind. Actually, I think everything starts in the soul and the mind, if we're going to get even deeper. But all action starts with a thought. If I think I'm bad, then those are the actions from which I'm going to be operating in the world. Yeah,
exactly.
If, however, I start to think that I am of value, I make very different decisions. I take very different actions. And that is why your story is so inspiring. If I'd gone onto Instagram and you'd just been going on about, this is how many calories you've got to eat, and this is how much exercise you've got to take, and this is this is like, and going on about BMI and all the rest of it, I wouldn't have been fascinated with you. The fact that you talk about the inner journey and your beautiful body today, you've always been a beautiful woman, but you shine today. The fact that you talk about that from a place of, I healed myself on the inside and the body followed, that's what makes this so exciting to me.
Thank you.
Because it's a genuine journey. And I would imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, but I imagine that when you probably got halfway through this weight loss journey, you were still bubbling up with all this newfound self-love, just as much as you are now, because you'd already made the shift in your head.
It was a lot of work to continue on when I was losing weight. It wasn't just a case of, I decided to lose weight and everything. I think a lot of people have the idea that I have become this person since I lost weight, when actually it was completely the other way around. Now, I wasn't full of self-care, the whole way. It's been an ever-evolving process, and it's not stagnant. I don't decide to, treat myself really well, and then every single day I do. There's days where I can catch that negative narrator. I can find myself, just not living my best life.
Oh, yeah, we all can.
And that's why I want to be realistic with people, that this isn't, you don't decide to love yourself and then automatically that's it for the rest of your life. It's a process that we have to continue to work on.
And you've been evolving into this woman.
Exactly.
And you're going to keep evolving, right? Because you're only, 30-something?
37.
37. So you're really young. You're going to keep evolving. If I could helicopter you into the life of a woman or a man who's really struggling with, let's say, binge eating disorder, food addiction, binge eating disorder, that kind of type of, I know there's all eating disorders are
similar, but they manifest in different ways. But let's go for someone who's lost in binge eating disorder, food addiction, feel like they really can't stop eating. And I could helicopter you in and I could give you 2 minutes with that person. What messages would you want to ensure they receive before the helicopter comes to scoop you out?
The first thing to ask somebody is why. Why are you, without shame, why are you binge eating? What is it that you're escaping from? I think we always, in every single thing we do, in our whole lives, we always have to go back to the why. Why is this the case? Like for me as a child, I know, why has nobody ever, now as an adult, I look back and I go, why did nobody ever ask why? Why was Carla an overweight 10-year-old? Why was I a binge eater? Why are we? So if I'm talking to somebody, the first thing I always get them to do is to say, why? It might not be a case of you click and you go, like, Jo, you asked me why. And I'm like, well, I don't know. But allowing that to sit with yourself.
Sowing that seed
of why, and allowing yourself to give yourself the time to let that grow within you and to kind of work through it in your head or with the help of a professional, and start to kind of just gently question, why do I do this? Because a lot of the times I think we find ourselves doing an action that we don't have any idea why we're doing
it. It's autopilot. It's that neural highway, as I call it. Not pathway, it's a highway. It's
just straight to it. Mm-hmm. So what we want to do is interrupt that pathway, just with a little inquiry.
Little nudge. You'd ask them why. You've got about a minute left with them. What else would you?
I think I give them a couple of tools to interrupt that. So if we're talking about binge eating disorder, so a lot of people ask me, like, what did you eat on a daily basis? Then I'm going to eat that. That's not going to help you. But a tool to help is one like the 20 tool. We get triggered and our immediate reaction is to resolve that feeling, that emotive feeling, with food.
So when you say triggered, you mean that someone has an uncomfortable, something happens, it produces an uncomfortable feeling.
Exactly.
And rather than that person being able to feel that feeling, they want to shove it down with some food. And that's the pattern they've learned.
Most likely. Okay, I'm not a professional, but this is just from my experience.
You know a lot, you're an expert. So the 20 tool.
20 tool is something.
What works? How does that work?
The first thing is 20 seconds. Can you stop that for 20 seconds? Just 20 seconds, if you can put an interruption. So we got the trigger and your typical is a reaction, is to eat. But what we're looking for is to create a response where we're in our adult brain, we are grounded, we are capable, we're able to make a decision. So we're in our bodies and we're present. So if you take 20 seconds to interrupt that pattern. So walk away. Make movement is one of the best ways of changing your mind.
So changing state.
Or just grounding yourself. Literally just feeling your feet for 20 seconds. If you can wiggle your toes, feel your feet, it just pulls you back into your body. So I learned that what I was doing was every single time that I was, triggered, or because I was triggered constantly. With food addiction, I was never not triggered. So I was living my life up in the ether. So if anyone's listening to, I'm like waving my hands around my head. But I wanted to pull myself back into my body to be present. The best way to do that is to feel your feet. And we're not talking about grounding, going out, in our yoga pants and, bare feet onto the grass and feeling like we don't have time for that. Not all of us. I don't. If we do, that's great. But in that moment, you just need to wiggle your toes, feel your feet. Being present
with your feet.
Yeah. And then just, grab your leg, feel the meat of your body. And then you can start to look around and just, pick out a couple of things like, there's a black screen behind, there's, Jo's wearing green pants, or there's a white table there. And from the 20, you're increasing that to 1 minute, then 5 minutes.
Okay. By which point, the thought of food has probably disappeared.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
And it might not.
No.
And it might not work every single time.
No.
But it's just a simple tool.
But it's interrupting that tool.
That pattern.
Can I go back then and throw your question back at you? So if I'd come to you, you said that you started with eating disorders at 5. Disordered eating, yes. So if I came to you and said, when you were 5, and said, why? Why, Carla, why are you overeating? what would you have said?
I think the main reason would have been trauma. The negative self-talk for me was as a result of trauma. It was a thing I was telling myself. So I lived in a household that was, had a very, very amazing childhood. I had a lovely childhood, but no parents are perfect. Nobody in your life is perfect. And there are things that, when we think about trauma a lot, there can be, we go to the most extreme, like sexual violence, abuse. But there can be little things that can cause micro traumas. And those micro traumas might build up to develop bigger traumas, or they're like little cuts, and those little cuts, the more you add, the more painful they get. So I think 5-year-old Carla was a bit confused and needed comfort. And her comfort came from the most readily available drug, which was food.
Yeah. And a drug it can be.
Yes. Yeah. And it's very similar to any other addiction, to alcohol, to
100%.
sex, except we need food to live.
We do need food to live.
We have to eat. I'm not diminishing any other addiction, but you don't have to drink to survive. You don't have to smoke. You don't have to gamble, but you do have to eat.
You do have to eat. Are there certain foods you now avoid?
No, not anymore.
You eat anything and everything?
Yeah, I don't eat meat and plant-based, but that's a personal, that's just an ethical choice. Yeah, for me, everybody else do what they want. But for me, there's nothing I cannot eat. The only food that could give me a little bit of like a habitual overeating are tortilla chips. They were a big trigger for me, trigger food. So when I was losing weight, I removed them completely and then brought them back in small portioned sizes. So like in individual bags. And then I was coming now with this pack of tortilla chips in our pantry that's been there for probably actually it's gone off. But that wouldn't have that control over me. But if I'm really hungry, I can find myself mindlessly eating something. And I'm like, oh no, wait, hold on. I just need to eat something. Yeah. And that'll be fine.
That's not who I am anymore.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Is there addiction in your family?
Yes, there is. Yeah.
Yeah. Because addiction does tend to run in families. And one thing I would love people to know is that addiction, as you've just said, is not necessarily this extreme thing of a person sat on a park bench drinking vodka out of a paper bag. Addiction comes in all shapes and sizes, respects no person. Anyone can have it. And a lot of people are living in families where there are low levels of addiction present, be that with food or with alcohol or with gambling or with sex or with shopping or whatever. And it's a genetic illness. It gets passed on. And I think if someone knows that they're dealing with addiction, it's easier to get treatment than if they're thinking, well, I should just be doing better.
There's something wrong with me.
There's something wrong with me. I'm the problem. And yes, it's your problem to fix.
Yes.
But you're not the problem.
It's your responsibility to fix it, but it's not
your fault.
It's not your fault. Yeah. Exactly. I think that's something that I really want people to understand. We have to take responsibility. I don't believe, yes, we may be victims, but we don't have to live in a victim mentality. And we have the power to overcome whatever we're feeling. But I see it all the time with people I know, they're even addicted to their phones.
Yes. Oh,
they cannot sit and you can tell when they're having a feeling that is not because they picked up their phone and they're scrolling through it. It's a method of escape. You're escaping into another reality. And I can do it myself. I'm not addicted, but I know that I'm like, oh, I'm escaping something here. I'm very hyper aware of when I'm doing something that's not a beneficial behavior to me. Like, ooh, I need to what am I escaping here? Questioning myself.
Do you think that I hope this language is, I hope I'm not going to offend you when I say this, but do you think it's easier if you've been very large or very high up the scale of a certain addiction to see your problem? Is it easier for you in that situation than it is for maybe someone, say like me? So I would say that for many years, I had low-level disordered eating. Actually, in my teens, it was bad anorexia, bulimia. Then it kind of sort of was just like diet binge, throughout my 20s and into my 30s. And I'm very well today. I have a lot of peace around food and body today, but my God, has it been a journey. But my weight has sort of always been pretty much within the normal range. So I was never diagnosed with, well, I was with the bulimia younger, but, in my 20s and in my 30s, I was never diagnosed with anything because I looked normal. And it's hard, I think, to sometimes see what's actually going on in your own head when on the outside it all looks normal. Whereas, of course, if you are carrying a lot of extra weight as you were, 100 and something pounds, how much have you lost?
183.
183.
13 stone.
If you're carrying that much extra weight, like another human body, is it easier to see that you're ill, or does the denial still swirl around?
I don't know, because that's my only reality. Right, okay. That's my only.
I'm just thinking of people that you've spoken to. So do you get people who are, quote unquote, a normal weight still coming to you for help because they recognize the behaviors?
Yes, definitely. I think, you can find that with women specifically, we are, I feel, horrendous for our generation, the generation before me, and all the generations before me, especially when the diet industry really took off, because the majority of us, I believe, of women who have not been in, and men as well, but the majority of women who've not been in, like maybe 1 or 2 stone over the, the average.
The standard metric. Yeah.
We have lived in a diet fall off the wagon. And if you've ever followed me for a while, you know that is my least favorite expression on earth. We've lived in that cycle for our whole lives. 10-pound cycle. It's like, what is the cycle? What is it? Back again. Why? Why are we doing this? What is happening? I think a lot of people think, what's wrong with me? But the actual question we should be asking is, what happened to me? Or why am I like this?
And what am I trying to fix?
Yeah.
With either overeating or undereating, or over-exercising, or punishing myself, or buying something in a smaller size and
what
thinking,
value is that?
I will squeeze myself into it. And right.
And why is a smaller size more valuable than a larger size?
Don't even get me started.
Yeah. We've only got a couple of hours, to talk. We don't have all day, but we could, why is smaller value? A better value.
So interesting because, I've always been a size 14, the 12. If you go for vanity sizing, I'm a 12, because some shops do. But I'm a size 14 woman. And for years, I'm talking it breaks my heart, Carla. For years, I have been feeling, and I don't anymore, thinking I should be smaller. For years. And in more recent years, I'm like, oh, I'm a 14. So I just go to what I like in a shop, and I pick up a 14 and I put it on. Oh, it suits me, and I'll go and buy it. Where does this come from? Where does it come from? This idea that women have to be tiny in order to be of value. Like, in your opinion, where does that come from? Because it breaks my heart that I wasted so much of my life thinking like that. I can see it in my daughters. I see it in clients. Now, you are someone who's smaller, but that's because you've kind of reached a weight that feels right for you. And I don't need to know what your dress size is. It's none of my business. But this idea that we're kind of only okay if we're a 10 and couldn't tell anyone I'm a 14. I mean, what is that about?
If I look back at a TV show, America's Next Top Model, and a woman walked onto it who could not have been any more than a size 10, and Tyra asked her, what does it feel like to be a plus size model?
When was this?
2000s.
Okay.
So, if you think about that, then...
Wow. It's so toxic.
It's so toxic. I think the fashion industry has an awful lot to, even if you look back in the 60s, like the waif trend.
Right. Yeah.
Twiggy, and then that's gonna pass down through generations. Every single mother, not every single, of course, but like a lot of mothers, I would imagine, were on weight loss diets.
Yeah,
or
my mother was.
The shakes, or the points, or the sins, or whatever. And it just continues to pass down generation to generation. It's just if Twiggy's the most valuable because she's a waif, or Edie, Kate Moss, heroin chic. If we're circling, like, do you remember when Kim Kardashian was pregnant and her feet swelled and people were mocking her feet? She was pregnant.
I mean, it's just horrendous.
It's horrendous.
But then someone like that is part of the problem.
But am I not part of the problem?
Are we all not part of the problem? So this is something I really want to talk about, is woman to woman misogyny in this area.
It's Huge.
Right, but why don't we talk about it? Why is it not spoken about that women can be as misogynistic towards other women as men? It's almost like this is an unspoken thing. But I think I've probably received more misogyny from other women, certainly in this area, than I have from men.
In which area?
In the area of body image and
Yeah.
how I look and stuff. And I'd love to hear your...
I think it's to do with beauty standards. I think it's
set by women?
Set by
men and women?
Men and women. I don't think we're innocent in this. And if you look at, am I not part of the problem? Because I've gone from a size 24, 26 to a size 10.
Yeah.
Therefore, am I not part of the problem because I'm promoting being a smaller size?
Well, except that you're a smaller size as a result of the work you've done on yourself.
Yeah, but that's not obvious straight away.
Okay, yeah, I get that. But you are, again, why I think you're so fascinating is you're using your platform and your incredible physical changes almost like a portal for people to enter through because it's really attractive. Oh my gosh, she's done this. How has she done this? And again, you're not selling them diet drinks or gym membership or anything. You're saying, oh no, well, what we need to do is go and work on ourselves. You need to go and work on yourself. And I think you sell a journal, don't you? Is there some? So you give people tools to start becoming more self-aware.
It's literally called the Show Up For Yourself journal.
Show Up For Yourself journal, which I love. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But in doing that, you're actually part of the solution.
I have to use the marketing
available to you,
which is the before and afters.
Yes.
Because my before and afters are quite shocking.
They're amazing.
I think when most people meet me it's so weird to me, Jo, to meet somebody who doesn't know that I used to be 23 stone.
Well, unless I'd seen it on Instagram.
Yeah. And most people don't believe it. You know, not most people, but a lot of people don't believe it. I get a lot of this is obviously doctored or AI or something, and it's like, no, it's not. Like, I can show you the loose skin if you really want to see it. But that's people and their opinions. But I think I have to use the tools available to me to get the message across that I can.
There's an inside job.
Inside. If I could stand there and scream to everybody, and that's why I'll never share my calories. I'll do the odd couple of things that I've made to eat but that's not what it's about. It's not about putting the food into your mouth. It's about not putting it. How do we stop the constant and what's controlling that hand? And it's your head.
So the How to Show Up For Yourself journal, great name for a journal. A lot of my clients will say to me, I will be talking to them about self-care, self-love, and they're like, I don't know how to do that. For you, what does showing up for yourself look like? Maybe do me a comparison. So how does not showing up for yourself look like in the past compared to how you show up for yourself today? Are you able to talk me through
definitely.
that?
So it can be a very obvious and simplified action. So maybe not brushing my teeth or not having a shower, or I have psoriasis, so I have to put a topical steroid on, not being bothered to do that. But now I'll have a shower most days. I always did my makeup, but I, might not have been bothered to brush my teeth before because I didn't feel like something as simple as that. Or showing up for myself could be could be catching negative self-talk and hearing that and going, oh, okay, what's that? Whereas before it would have just been allowing that to run rampant.
Okay, interesting. Right.
Then showing up for yourself can also be doing the hard things that we know we need to do for ourselves. For example, going to therapy. Therapy is really uncomfortable. Showing up for myself now could be pushing myself totally outside my comfort zone. And maybe public speaking, or, I was on live TV last month. You couldn't have paid me millions to go on live TV before, but that's pushing myself outside a comfort zone.
Oh, I bet you smashed it.
I did.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Love it. I have no problem doing it because I'm only talking.
Because you're authentic today.
Well, it's just me.
So you're just coming as you. Yeah.
I'm not selling anything. I'm not trying to make people think a certain way about me.
That's showing up for yourself as well, allowing you
100%.
come into the world rather than your mask.
Exactly.
And people think that that damn mask is going to protect them, but it doesn't. It's the opposite. It stifles us, that
it
mask.
stifles us, and it hurts our super ego. It hurts our being. It hurts who we are, because we're not showing the world, we're doing ourselves a disservice in not being who we are. You know, there are times when my authentic self, you know, is like, I just want to lie on the couch and do nothing. And that's okay. I think we need to, showing up for yourself is honoring where you are at a point in time as well, and being honest with yourself about where you are. If that day is not a good day, it's okay to not have a good day. It doesn't every day doesn't have to be perfect. I can't stand that toxic positivity, because it's not honoring how you're feeling.
And it's very, very demeaning to other people to say, to present a life that looks perfect when it's actually not.
No life is perfect.
No life is perfect. Well, we were saying before we started recording, didn't we? That, you know, I was making a reel the other day. I think I took a reel of me making my reels in my kitchen, and they were still washing up left from breakfast. And I'm like, I'm keeping that in the reel because I don't want anyone to think I'm living in some perfect kitchen with children who put stuff in the dishwasher before they go to school, because clearly they don't. Whereas some people you are trying to kind of promote perfection, and I get it, but I just not sure it's helpful.
I think perfection, the idea of perfection for a lot of people is an excuse. If I can't, it's an unconscious excuse. You know, we're not saying, oh, I can't be perfect, therefore I'm not going to do it. You know, but I think we have to allow ourselves to be vulnerable enough to be who we are.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's probably the biggest change for me, is the difference, allowing myself to be vulnerable, allowing myself and honoring who I am. I used to have to put on this face of, instead of defense, I was offensive. So I was ready to fight you before before you even said boo to me. I was, like Vincent, my partner, when I first met him, he called me tough girl, and I've had to dismantle that mask, that many masks, over the last couple of years.
Talking of Vincent, I met him just before we started recording. He is lovely. Talk to me about what it was like to be with your life partner when you're going through the addiction and all the food or all the eating disorders to now. Like, how has it changed your relationship and your marriage?
Oh my gosh, I'm incredibly lucky, because the man I chose to spend my life with is, in my opinion, the most wonderful person.
He's lush.
He is. He's very handsome.
He's a keeper.
And he's very tall. But
And he carries 2 suitcases. He carries lots of stairs.
4 flights of stairs. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll keep him.
We will, definitely. When he saw in me behind the mask that I didn't even see, and he was prepared. I always slag him and say, like, you played the long game, didn't you? Like you put in the time to get and to get all the benefits. And but he always saw in me what I couldn't see in me.
Well, it was you he fell in love with, and it was you he fancied.
Yeah.
The bit of you, the inner you, the bit that you had to connect to in order to change your life.
Exactly. And he was incredibly supportive, and it wasn't easy. And it must not have been easy for him in the years leading up to it, because we were 6 years together at the point when I had my realization. It was a long time of me being very defensive with him, and very having my barriers up and not being vulnerable and not allowing him in, or anybody in.
It's hard to love when you're lost when you're having a relationship with food.
That was my main relationship.
Of course, yeah.
That was my priority. Was always food. I'm like, why did you stay?
God-given, isn't he?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. My dad passed away 2 months before I met Vincent. So I feel I'm not very spiritual or anything, but there was a nudge somewhere along the way that brought him.
Do you think Vincent's love has got something to do with softening you to the point where you could start doing the work on yourself?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. But I
Yeah.
don't want anyone to think that if they don't have that in their life, that they still can't do it.
No, because of course they can.
Yeah.
But having someone believing in you, be that a partner or a therapist or a coach or a best friend, having
Or GP.
or a GP mirroring unconditional love back to you, that is powerful. That is powerful. Someone who says, I honor you where you are right now, and I'm going to show up for you. It's uncomfortable when you're lost in addiction, I would imagine. You're like, don't look at me like that. But again, that's one of those seeds that must have gone in and started sprouting.
Definitely. It took a long time for it to manifest, obviously, to grow.
Well, you probably had trust issues, so it takes time.
God, yeah. I didn't understand why he was with me. Why would he have chosen me? What I have?
What would he have said?
What would he have said? Because of who I am. Because of my kindness and because it's me. Yeah.
I remember saying to my husband years ago, we only met 7 years ago, so maybe like a year into our relationship, if I got really fat, would you still love me? I mean, what's that even say about me and about the culture I live in, rada, and my own headspace at the time? And he was like, well, yeah, it's you. It's you I'm attracted to. It's just you. And I remember thinking, wow.
Well, let me turn that around. Would you still be attracted to him?
He's the ridiest ride ever. I love him to bits.
And if he gained 15 stone, would you still?
Of course I still love him.
Yeah.
But I would be worried about what feelings he was eating on and what I would be worried for his self-esteem.
And that's what Vincent was for me.
Yeah. That's
concern. But that's love.
Yeah.
That's concern of love because he could see what I was doing to myself. Yeah. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I could and I couldn't. But that's what he was concerned. You know, he at some point kind of almost took like a carer stance in our relationship.
Yeah, right. I see that. Can I ask you, without going into graphic details, I don't really want to talk about sex as in the act of sex, but I'm more interested in, has your sex life improved since you've started fancying yourself a bit more? Isn't that the key?
Well, I have a child now.
You have a child now. Yeah. Well, yes, well, that complicates sex, doesn't it? You can't have much.
No, but actually, I got pregnant a month after I reached my goal weight. So, yeah, literally.
What a gift.
Yeah, well, you have to start putting weight back on again when you after reaching your goal weight. But it didn't. He was.
What a gift.
My feeling in myself, the confidence in myself, I think made me sexier.
Exactly that.
And my belief in myself. And to go, look at me.
Absolutely.
And look at me before. I was gorgeous before. There's no, because I was 23 stone doesn't diminish, but it took me.
You're still you.
Exactly.
But it is interesting. I've looked through a lot through your Instagram, and there isn't a light in your eyes when you're bigger.
Exactly.
There's a light in your eyes today.
That's the blue light.
Right. Okay.
That's the, yeah.
And that's what I notice, actually. I don't notice. I mean, of course, you are bigger, but it's not that's because there are many bigger, like Alison Hammond, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, she is such a sexy woman.
Yeah.
Gorgeous, lights behind her eyes and bigger. So it's not so much about size, although, of course, there's health stuff.
Yeah.
But it's that light, it's that spark of you.
And the value.
Exactly, that I notice, because I'm trained to do this as a coach, that seems to have switched on at some point.
Yeah.
And that
I don't know.
Is gorgeous.
I'd love to look back at the photographs and see if I can actually
see when that came on.
But I think it's not necessarily when I started to lose weight.
No, it'd
or
be when you made that shift mentally.
And then started to kind of heal that shift and heal that in me. Because the way I felt about myself and the way I feel about myself now. And there's a lot of begrudgery as well about loving yourself and being kind to yourself.
Talk to me about that.
Well, a lot of people don't like it when you step outside the box that they have created for you.
Right. Did you lose some friends? Because I lost some friends.
Oh, I lost some friends.
Yeah.
But I've also gained so
lovely
many
people. Yeah.
Like I met my best friend online from sharing my story.
You amazing.
And I'm sure she's listening now. Hello, Kirsty.
Hello,
but she is she is just like the connection, the real connection, because the barriers I've taken down, and I have kept so many of my friends, well, not so many. Like I'm better one-to-one.
Okay.
I'm an extroverted introvert.
So you're enjoying this?
I could sit here and talk to you for hours.
Yeah.
If we put 10 people around here, I'd be really tired and I would find that very difficult. But one-to-one is not a problem for me. And I love it. I thrive on this kind of connection. So I would have had very close friendships with, individuals.
Yeah.
And some of them have fallen by the wayside. And that's okay. I have no blame towards those people. They're living their lives, I'm living mine. But they knew a masked version of Carla. They knew
and that's the bit that they liked. And when the mask drops, suddenly there's a clash.
Yeah, because I'm not fitting into that box.
But our lives are this ever evolving tapestry. And, some threads are very long and go through the whole tapestry, and others, just short bits of threads. I can look back on some of the friendships that I've lost as a result of my evolution. I'm aware that sounds really woo-woo, but there you go.
It is an evolution.
But it is an evolution.
Journey.
My journey. And those people are like a bright bit of colour at that bit of the tapestry, but they are no longer active in my life, but they are a hugely important part of the tapestry.
Like that reason, season, or a lifetime.
Reason, season, yeah, lifetime. Yeah.
So I have friends who are lifetime. There's friends who were seasons, and there are friends who were there for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
the only thing to do is to wish them well, and the ones who have moved on from our lives. And
I don't think there's you're only doing yourself a negative disservice if you're carrying that any kind of negativity towards them, because it's not affecting them, it's only affecting you.
So I want to talk about feeling your feelings, because I'm aware that people are going to be watching this struggling with any kind of disordered eating. So be that anorexia, bulimia, binge eating disorder, food addiction. Have I missed some? Just want to make sure everyone
EDNOS is eating disorder not otherwise specified.
Okay. Or people who were just on a diet, off a diet, on a diet, off a diet. That old chestnut that, I know very well. People who have an uncomfortable relationship with their bodies or an uncomfortable relationship with food. And you and I would both agree from our experience with this, that a lot of that disorder is to do with not feeling your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Again, for someone who's never felt their feelings, how would you suggest someone starts to go about feeling their feelings if they can't afford therapy?
The first thing I would suggest is to journal, and to not necessarily try to feel your feelings, but just connect with yourself.
Write them down. Yeah, right.
Just start to even just connect with yourself. Allow yourself to be yourself. I find the morning pages is one of the best tools ever, because it's unedited. You're supposed to just write for 3 pages, unedited, not reading it back. Doesn't matter if it's scribbles, if you can't spell anything right, it doesn't matter. And it's allowing yourself to just do that and connect with yourself and just see what comes up. Like a lot of people say, well, how do you do it? You just, like if I was taking it here, I open my notebook and I start to write and I go, I'm sitting here on a couch with Jo, and Jo's wearing green and I'm wearing black and I have some blue on and I've never worn blue before. And you allow yourself to follow that train of thought.
And then the subconscious starts to speak.
Yeah. And you don't lift the pen. Just keep going.
Right.
You just keep going until you finish 3 pages and see what happens, or keep going more if you want to. But don't allow yourself to stop before 3 pages, because you're in that flow. You're allowing yourself to connect with yourself. And I find that by doing that, you're allowing yourself to just connect with yourself. And then you might be able to just feel a little bit more by being grounded. And that's something that changed for me, was to allow myself to be grounded. I would highly recommend Dr. Kristen Neff to anybody who is going through something like this. And she is one of the pioneers of radical self-compassion. And allowing yourself, maybe the meditations that she has, they're 20 minutes or like a 20-minute body scan. These things just allow us to inquire into ourselves with a nicer, more relaxed, calmer way of looking at ourselves than the typical punishment, the typical kind of feelings that we would have for ourselves. She's wonderful way of when we start to think about things, sometimes we can be like, oh, that's, I can't believe I think, it's like, okay, that's okay to think about that. I'm a human. I am compassionate towards myself. We are compassionate towards everybody else. Start to treat yourself like your best friend. One kind of tool that helped me along the way was when you hear that negative talk, even becoming aware of it, is to say, like, what do you call your significant other? Like I call Vincent babe. So when I'm going, oh, I can't believe you tripped up, walking across this room. So that's something I would have given out to myself about before. Try saying, babe, I can't believe you tripped up walking across that. And just by putting
that interrupts it, doesn't it?
It interrupts it. And when you go, oh, like if you hear yourself say it, reframe it and put babe in front of it, all of a sudden it seems quite toxic.
It doesn't fit, does it?
It doesn't fit because you love that person.
Yeah.
Even think of even if you don't have a person, if you have an animal, like I have Smushy is my firstborn son. And
Cat.
He's my angel. But if I was like Smushy, I can't believe it doesn't fit. So put the name of somebody you love or something you love in front of that every time you hear that voice, and just put that in front of and see if that changes the way you feel about, if you were going to say that to your babe, that doesn't fit well. So why are you saying it to yourself?
Feeling our feelings is such a, it sounds like such a simple thing to do. But I don't think as a culture, we are trained to do it.
It should be in schools.
It should be in schools, but then shouldn't everything be in schools? And then poor teachers, they've got enough on their plates. But
this is very true.
I believe we're taught to fear our feelings because we're not taught how to manage them. And actually, the thing I've learned that's probably been most helpful and helps my clients is when I say a feeling is an energy. It's a bit like a wave. It comes, it rises. You think, "Ooh, that's a big one." It crests and then it falls away. And all you've got to do is stand there and allow that cresting and falling away to happen. Because otherwise, our bodies, our cells, everything we block, we just push down. So we end up with all this unprocessed stuff that becomes trauma and manifests in all these wonky relationships and wonky behaviors and unfulfilled potential, when actually all we have to do in the moment is just close our eyes and just allow that 20 second of whoosh. And when a client, I mean, you may or may not agree with this, but when a client practices that in a coaching session and they go, oh, it's lit. I thought that thing that I've just spent 20 seconds doing was going to kill me.
I was just going to say that. It's not
and it's
going to kill you.
Right.
Now, of course, there are people who have really extreme emotions.
Of course.
And, maybe...
And they would need some help to do that, of course. Yes, I'm not talking about deep historic trauma here.
But regular Joe Soaps, who are like the majority of us who are living through life. And if we allow ourselves to feel it, it's like when you think about, I'm sure when you were giving birth, a contraction.
Yes, at a contraction, right?
It might not be pleasant, but it will pass.
And it's getting you to a goal.
Because an emotion is there to teach you something as well.
Yeah.
It's something that's happened in us. It's like, have you ever read The Dance of Anger by Harriet Lerner?
No, going to.
So women have never societally been allowed to feel anger.
Well, there's some more misogyny for you.
It's not a appropriate emotion for women to have.
Right.
I was always called very emotional as a child because I would cry.
I relate
Crying is an appropriate emotion for a girl to have. Anger is not. I mistook my emotion, my anger, for sensitivity, or the other way around.
Isn't that interesting?
Doesn't that it hits, doesn't it?
It really hits. It's very hard to be angry. In fact, if I think about it, if I get angry, say with one of my kids, I immediately will feel guilty afterwards. But sometimes they've been really quite unpleasant.
Yeah. Anger it's an appropriate
Yeah, of course.
emotion for anybody to have. But societally, it's appropriate for a man to have emotion. Vice versa with men. They're sadness, depression,
right.
which is why we have such high rates of suicide in
Yeah.
men. We are all entitled to have those emotions because they're human.
Yeah.
It's a human condition. It's something we should have.
And actually, if we feel the anger in the moment, it doesn't become a resentment.
Exactly.
And then eat us alive.
Yeah.
Or bitterness. Yeah. Really interesting. What is it like? So you are obviously a massive advocate of self-care, self-love, looking after you so that you can do your life. But I also know that you're a mother of a very young child. And that's the hardest time to be in the self-care space because children are all consuming. So how do you manage that?
Ask for help. Before I had Brannock, I thought I was going to do this all by myself. I was going to be the island. I was going to be I don't have anybody who can help me. I am, even you've met Vincent, this very helpful man, but no, I am a mother. And therefore it is my duty to give every part of my being
I know that one.
to my child.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got really severe postnatal depression.
Right.
I had an emergency C-section, and all of a sudden, the way I was hoping I was going to be postnatally was not the reality. I had to once again allow myself to be vulnerable enough to ask for help.
And who did you ask?
My mom, my sister, my GP.
Your husband?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I had to allow myself to reach out to people, and you'll be surprised. Now, I know there are some people who don't have help, but the majority of us have somebody that we can reach out to, a friend and people want to help. People want to be involved. Grandparents, not all, but some want to feel valued. And I thought I was going to do this totally by myself. And then reality kicked in. That's not the way it was going to work. I was going to have to ask for help and allow myself. Like, we're in London now. I live in Dublin, and my mom and my sister are taking care of my son. And it's difficult to do it, but you find a way.
But I bet he is a much happier, more rounded young man because of all of these influences.
All these people who love him.
Exactly. He's going to learn to trust people, not just trust his mum.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, how beautiful.
And that's what I hope.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I also know for myself is that I had to find a way to give myself time. And
he needs you to do that.
Exactly. And for me, that people call me nuts for waking up really early in the morning and going for a walk, but that's my time for myself.
No, I get it.
Before my world wakes up. Yeah. Before I have to give to him.
What time is really early?
4:45.
That's really early.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so you're up at 4:45. Yeah. Is there any meditation or anything?
No,
or
I go
are you
for a walk.
Straight into the day?
I go for an hour walk every single morning.
Okay, in the dark?
In the dark.
On your own?
Yes.
Feel safe?
Yes. I'm in Dublin. I'm not in London.
Nice.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd feel safe in London. It would be probably countryside.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'd...
Yeah, my friend who was in London, wouldn't have felt safe. So I think
it depends where you are in London, right? It depends where you are anywhere. But safety's paramount. But that's your 1 hour walk. Have you got headphones in or are you listening to okay, and what are you listening to?
Either music or a podcast or something funny.
Okay, something funny, inspiring, or music. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Depending on the mood of the day.
And you do a speed walk, a march?
Yeah.
Lovely. So that's your exercise, but also probably your spiritual practice for the day.
100%. It's for my mind more than anything else.
For your mind, for your soul, for your... Yeah, okay, got you. So you then get back at 5:45.
Yeah, by 6 by the time I'm back.
Yeah.
I put on my radio show that has a comedy part that I love every morning and just makes me feel, just sets me up. I have a coffee. I go have a shower and I do my makeup. And I do my makeup, my hair, and I get dressed every day.
You have amazing hair, by the way.
Thank you very much. It's all down to that hair wrap silky sausage thing that you sleep in.
And my daughter bought me some of those for Christmas.
It's the best thing I've ever
invested. I don't think I'm quite long enough.
Oh, no, you can. Doesn't matter. Yeah, you figure it out. But I look insane when I'm going to bed. But that's
that doesn't matter.
No, that's you've been together 10 years. Like, sorry, but
yeah.
But that's hair and makeup is a way for me of showing up for myself.
Yeah, no, I see that. And obviously cleaning your teeth these days as opposed to before.
Yeah.
I get that.
And then my world starts to wake up.
And then, right. So then by 7:00.
Yeah, 7:30. If
your men are waking up.
Yeah, if Brannock might still be asleep, he might be awake. It
He's
depends
a good
on the
sleeper.
day. He is a very good sleeper. We're very, very lucky.
Good.
We're but yeah, that is my time for myself. Sometimes I get my morning pages done beforehand. Sometimes I get a work done. It depends. I just roll with it, whatever the day throws at me.
And I'm interested in your working day now, because obviously you used to be in a corporate job. Charity, sorry. And now you do this.
Yes.
For your work. So can you talk me through a typical day
there
of
is no
work?
typical day.
Okay. Tell me about the sorts of things you get up to for work.
There'll be a lot of content creation. So filming either with a videographer or by myself, or taking photographs, or, trying something on, or writing something. There's a lot of writing involved. Like, I kind of microblog on my Instagram. I also have a YouTube. So filming, editing, the setup, all of that can take a lot longer than one would expect.
YouTube channels that's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Yeah, it's a lot of work. And
do you do full ones or little shorts?
Full. Wow. Yeah, so I both.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, so I do 6 posts between posts and reels on Instagram a week, and then a vlog every 2 weeks, and a sit-down video every week on YouTube. So it's like, if I was only to do that, it would be a full-time plus job. Yeah. But then there's everything else. There's admin, there's, all the negotiating and all that kind of stuff that goes on with it.
And you work with brands. They get you to be an ambassador for them.
Yeah, so I'm a brand ambassador for the program that I lost weight with, called Body Slims. So I
want to ask you about them, actually. Yeah. Just talk to how does Body Slim work?
I tried all the normal ones before, and my sister actually started losing weight before I did. And I had that same reaction, that when she didn't fit into my box, she wasn't my plus size older sister anymore. She'd started to lose weight. And, I had that reaction. I was like, oh, this is some cult. This is some useless. It's run by this guy called Jared Moore, and he is a coach. And he's a peak performance coach, specifically in sport.
So he understands mindset then?
It's mindset.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it different.
Right.
So it's 10 weeks. And we've been sold the idea that weight loss is, you lose a pound, you gain a pound, you lose a pound, the same 10 pounds that we've always done. But that's, of course, because we're making everybody else money. Whereas Body Slims is a 10 weeks where you have a targeted weight loss. You go for it for 10 weeks. Okay. And then you can take a break, and then you do the next cycle. And they give you calories. They give you, you walk 1 hour a day. So that's where my walks came from. And then you watch the seminars. And the seminars is where it makes it different, because...
And that's where you're changing your mindset.
Yeah, because it's not about... that was... Body Slims was mirroring everything I was learning in therapy about the coping mechanisms. Not every... But, it was mirroring. So for somebody who maybe has a stone that they want to lose, Body Slims will, step in, and that would be something that would be amazing, because you're changing that habit. Because if you don't change those habits and behaviors that led you to being 14 pounds or 10 pounds overweight, or 14 stone overweight, when you lose that weight... It's going to come back on again.
Of course it is.
That's why I believe that the odds are so stacked against people who have lost weight, is because we've white knuckled it through weight loss. We've only eaten a calorie, or allowance, or a sin allowance, or whatever else, and we haven't worked on anything to do with our head and that behavior that got us to being overweight in the first place, and to dismantle that.
Okay, so Body Slims. I wondered about the program. So you're an ambassador for them. They sound great. What else? Who else do you work with?
So I just worked with a brand called Vacious, Vacious by Sinead, which is a shapewear brand, Irish shapewear brand.
Nice.
And
is this the lady you were telling me about, who's larger herself?
And she
larger than Kim Kardashian, I should say, herself.
Exactly.
Not large in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, but fabulous woman. So it's like curvy. I can't remember her name now that I'm on the spot. It's terrible. It'll come to me. When you can't think of a name. Her brand is called Vacious, and she is a larger size fashion influencer and content creator, and she created an inclusive size range of shapewear, and I have done a few bits with them for loose skin, because I've lost 13 stone.
I wanted to ask you about loose skin.
Yeah.
What's that like? Do you live with it? Are you thinking, have you had any work done?
No,
Are
I
you
haven't.
wanting to get work done? Like, where are you with that?
Yeah, so you lose 13 stone, you're going to be left with loose skin.
Of course you are. I mean, having had 3 babies, I have loose skin, of course.
A lot of people will say that they're worried about loose skin at the end of weight loss.
Is that not an excuse though?
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
If you have been 23 stone
and now you're 10,
there's going to be some loose skin.
Of course.
If you were 23 stone, you probably weren't tight at 23 stone anyway. Like I never expected when I lost weight. Well, first of all, I never expected to lose this much weight. Never thought it was actually going to be possible until it was happening. I never thought, oh, I'm going to look like Kim Kardashian at the end of this. Like there was no part of me that was like, thought I was going to look like Kim Kardashian. And I do a series called Dressing for Loose Skin on my Instagram because I want to show people don't think I have loose skin, but I'm also very clever at the way I'm really into fashion. Fashion is my passion, but it's something because I've never been able to express myself with fashion before. So,
but people won't notice as well. Sorry to interrupt you, because they will be so captivated by your beautiful face and the light in your eyes. I mean, that's the genuine, real deal here. No one's going to be looking, going, "Where's her loose skin?"
I know people do.
Well, okay, I am captivated by your beautiful face and your story and your eyes. But the loose skin is it's your stuff, right? Like that's like for you to come to terms with or make a decision about.
It's loose skin. I want to show people that a life beyond weight loss might have, some loose skin.
Some realities, yeah.
But I also don't let it bother me. And the benefits of losing 13 stone, like you couldn't pay me, you couldn't give me anything in the world to put that weight back on again. There's nothing. Like if you told me that I was going to be 23 stone but flat, I'd be like, well, on your bike. I have no interest in it. But you can live a life that's really free. And yes, probably eventually I will have it removed. That is my plan eventually. Because sometimes when I see myself naked, there is still that point of I still look the same as I did 23 stone, just smaller.
Okay. Yeah. As in there's extra to you that you don't feel is
I have an apron stomach.
Okay.
And I have like bits that come out if something's too tight, and I would love to my goal is by 40 to be on a beach in a bikini. And I could do that now. But
you could do that now.
I could, but I also don't want to.
No, I get that completely.
Yeah.
But you go on a beach in a swimming costume?
I actually haven't been on a beach since. I've been in the pool in a swimming costume.
Yeah.
Or I wear crop tops now. That doesn't bother me.
Right.
I've never shown my lower half of my stomach.
Okay.
Because
that's where you're more stretched.
Yeah. And I never did. But I've always been kind of prudish I've always covered up quite a lot. Like I might wear something really tight, but I've always kind of covered myself. I don't know what that's a leftover from
Well, you
years.
are Irish, my darling. I mean, there's got to be a bit of that legacy of...
It's also cold.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm cold all the time.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, you said that.
All the time.
Losing weight, you're cold all the time.
Yes, and to everybody who's asking me, have I had all my things checked? Yes, I actually just got the call from my annual blood test and everything is perfect.
Hey, you've just got less
I've
layer around you.
13 stone lagging jacket off me. You're going to be colder.
Yes, you're going to be a lot colder.
Yeah.
A lot colder.
Just like I lived 32 years in a plus size body. This is a very big change. I also, things like sitting down is more painful because bones hit, chairs and things like that. Or I bruise easier now. There are things that are like negative, but they're really not.
No,
not negative.
Compared to the gains.
The gains.
Yeah, because you've got yourself back.
Or for the first time.
Right, you've got yourself, yeah.
Because I never had it before.
No.
I never was who I am now. She was there. She was just hidden.
It's such a gift that you had your child, that you had Brannock after you'd woken up to yourself. Because he's able to get a fully present mum.
He doesn't know any other way.
He doesn't know a mum lost in addiction. Or
he knows a mum lost in work, but what mother isn't.
Yeah.
But, I'm really grateful that I did it then. That I did it first before having him. It wasn't a necessarily conscious decision. Well, kind of was, but I was ready to become a mum because I could almost be a little less selfish, but still be selfish. Selfless.
Balanced.
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
wasn't lost into myself.
If he starts displaying food issues, because obviously, like we said, it can run in families. Well, what will you do?
Talk to him. Keep lines of communication really open with no shame.
Right.
No shame.
That's the key, with no shame.
Just keep.
Oh, I know what this feels like, Brannock.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand. I've got you.
Mm.
Talk to me.
And I still love you.
Yes.
Yeah.
No matter what you look
That's
like,
so
no matter what you
powerful.
do.
And that's what your man did for you.
Exactly.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. It's very interesting.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
Dancing. So, okay.
What a segue.
I know. Let's go from love to dancing, particularly slut drop dancing, which I'm just like, I want to learn how to do that. So I was on your Instagram this morning watching you dance yourself crazy. And I just loved it. And the dancing you do is so hot.
So hot.
And just like being a woman and like just expressing anything and everything and not worrying about what people think. And I just like, I want to do that dancing.
I love it.
How did you get into it? What sort of dance is it? Because
It's
obviously
called
we can't
heels.
call it slut drop dancing.
No, it's called heels.
Heels.
Heels. It's literally
Because you're dancing in heels. Does that not kill your back?
No, my God, they're the most comfortable heels I've ever put on in my entire life.
I need to get some of these.
Dancing heels, just an FYI, the heels that you get for dance, and I'm not talking like the ballroom, like little.
No.
These are like
they're
between
heels.
7 and 10 centimeters, depending on.
Wow.
They are the most comfortable because they're designed to support your ankles. They're designed to. They've got good arch support in them,
And have they got a band around the ankle?
Yeah, most of them are boots.
Okay.
They're a booty type.
Okay.
But I was a dancer when I was younger. I did ballet until I was booted out for my seat not going in enough and being too heavy to go on point or to be lifted. Now, booted out in a very, nice way.
Oh, how is that? How is a nice way of being booted
Well, a
out?
nice way, and it's when took your seat in more. It was like, my seat does not go in anymore. So basically shamed into, and then some of the other girls being promoted to wearing point shoes.
Right. And you not.
Me and the other one or two girls who weren't a size 6 or something, at being kind of left behind, and suggested that maybe we just do the character classes and not the rest of the ballet and things like that. So I had obviously quite a toxic relationship with dancing then, because while I had always loved it, it was always a passion of mine, then it became an issue, became a place of shame. Yeah. And I can't even remember where I spotted it, a woman dancing, and she only had classes in the south of Ireland. And I was like, okay, fine. And then I found one that was in Dublin, and it's run by this woman called Angela Dudek. And I just, when you meet somebody and their soul, their energy is just, I'm like, oh yes, like I just got this vibe from her, and I was like, when I tell you, Jo, I have never stepped outside of my comfort zone more to walk into that class.
I can imagine.
I was petrified. It was actually a takeover, like a guest spot from a couple of teachers coming from the UK's biggest heels dancing class called Heels and Feels. So if anybody in the UK wants to give it a go, when you look at heels dancing, you expect it to be like stripper, like you expect it to be, but with a lot of people like, oh, they're just looking for male attention. There's no men in the class, first of all. There's no it is.
It's for you, surely.
It's for me.
Yeah.
It has helped to change me in so many ways. It's the confidence and to get to know my body. I used to see my femininity as a weakness. I used to see femininity as a weakness. And to reclaim my femininity and see the strength in it, and to feel my body and to express my body and to express myself with dancing. And it's not even the music that I like. It's just, but even in the class we go, like every Thursday I go as often as I humanly can to any pop-ups, or we practice and everything. We sit in a circle. And if anyone has anything they want to share about how they're feeling, and then we do a meditation at the start of each to become present, and then we do a warm-up, and then we do the class. And it is fun. And I've never been like a joiner in or of any exercise class. That would have been like my idea of absolute hell. My whole life is, you wanted me to go to a gym to do a HIIT class. I would have like, there's no way. But there was something about this. And I remember the very, very first day I went into that class, like petrified, texting Kirsty, being like, I don't think I should be here. And a woman walked past and she was wearing a thong with see-through mesh pants and a bra. And I was like, I'm in the wrong place. I can't, there's no way I can be here. I was like, there's no way. And that was Kinga. And Kinga is now like one of like the most amazing women I've ever met, because we're all there for our love of dancing. We're all there because of love of expressing ourselves and how it makes us feel and how empowered we feel. And I would have never met any of those women if I hadn't done this. And they are now, if I needed them, they'd be there tomorrow. And it's like a tribe. And it's, a couple of weeks into it, I was like, okay, so where do you get this outfit that you're wearing, and push myself outside my comfort zone. And then they had the Heels and Feels class came over from the UK again for a camp. And I realized, I was like, I spent a weekend dancing. I voluntarily, not only voluntarily, like with gusto, quickly bought the tickets, the pass, and did, 2 days of 7 to 9 hours each day of dancing, which is something I volunteered to do exercise with joy and wanted to do it. And even I did the intermediate class, and I'm not intermediate level, but I was like, let's just give it a go. And I gave it a go and I pushed myself. But that class, that dancing, if anybody has ever felt that they've wanted to do something, anything, whether it's, people like hiking, and I share it for that love of it, of putting yourself outside that comfort zone, finding your tribe, whatever your tribe might be, and going for it and coming together for that love of expressing yourself with it. Because I always say fashion's my passion, but probably heels dancing is now.
Yeah, I can see it. There's something very vulnerable about it, which gives you your strength.
Yeah.
Like I'm always saying, people who are willing to be vulnerable and tap into those bits of themselves that are unexplored will be the strongest people you'll meet, because you get to understand all of yourself and you're not scared of yourself anymore. I remember when I was single, before I met my husband, I did a year of salsa dancing. And I thought I was a really relaxed person. And I was not a really relaxed person. I found it so hard to let people lead me.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, really hard. But when I let go and thought, okay, I'm going to be like really rubbish here because I'm a newcomer and I have to kind of trust this man to kind of lead me and not grope me and, all the rest of it. I had a whale of a time. And I honestly could feel bits of me unlocking. That's the only way I can describe it. I felt like someone was just undoing knots inside of me.
Amazing.
And I could breathe a bit better. And I met my husband probably a few months after that. And it's a good job I'd learned to be vulnerable, because then I, fell in love with my soulmate. And then you got to be really vulnerable. But there's something so strong about being vulnerable.
And I think that's, for me, is the biggest change in everything, is the allowing myself to be vulnerable and the beauty in vulnerability. And what happens when I used to always have to think that I had to have everything figured out, and you really don't. You don't. And it's okay to not have it figured out. And it's okay to be vulnerable enough to learn and to let somebody else help you and to guide you. And sometimes it's really frustrating. And there'll be days where, like last Thursday, I was, it wasn't working for me. It wasn't happening. And I was like, well, that's just a day.
Yep. And you were feeling it. You're allowing yourself to feel it. Therefore, it passes. It's not a bad day. It's just a day of big feelings.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the health at every size movement? Because I am aware that there are, just going back to the whole kind of weight loss thing, and I'm aware that there'll be people watching this who are naturally bigger than what the shops tell us we should be, i.e. a 10, 12, 14, or maybe a 16 if we're lucky. That there are people who are very comfortably in bigger bodies than that, or much smaller bodies than that. There's this language out there around, the BMI scale, for example. I'm not sure I particularly subscribe to that because of muscle. And anyway, and I believe the diet industry had a big hand, actually, played a big hand in bringing the BMI metric down.
It was also supposed to be for mass populations, not for an individual basis.
Thank you. Right.
That's another.
Yes. So, all very twisted and toxic. I know that there's a movement called Health at Every Size, which I really love. And I can see that someone who's maybe in a bigger than normal, I use air quotes, body, or a smaller than normal body, might watch us sat here now, two normal sized women, and think, well, they've got nothing to tell me, or I don't belong, or I'm not like them. And yet, of course, you can be healthy at other sizes.
Mm-hmm.
And often part of that is about exercise. We've just been talking about exercise. And so many people will say, I hate exercise, hate it, hate all exercise. Now, I'm lucky I love exercise. Always have done, always will do. You've just said, oh my God, I actually found some exercise I loved to do.
I hated exercise.
You hated exercise. Did you, this is my question. I'm going about this a very long way. Did you hate exercise because you were big and felt shame around it? Or did you just hate exercise?
I hated exercise because I couldn't do it.
Right.
I hated exercise because I hated walking, because walking was incredibly difficult at 23 stone.
Okay.
I believe...
But you started walking at 23 stone on your Body Slim. Is it Body Slim program?
Body Slims, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. And I hated it at the start. And then I began to start to like it. And then it slowly transformed. And then there's some days where I'm like, I really don't want to do this. But that's with every exercise, But I know the benefits for my health and for my body.
Done it, right?
Exactly. I believe that if I had found Bevel and Embody, the dance school that I go to, and there are women of all shapes, sizes, and ages doing it. If I had found that at 23 stone, I think my perspective on life would have been a little bit different. I think I would have had, if I had seen other women who weren't, then maybe I would have felt a bit better about myself.
Yeah, right. So it's about giving yourself permission, but it's also about visibility of people I love Bryony Gordon. She's actually a friend of mine. So, and she's like always running in I think she says I don't know what size body she is, but she's a bigger than normal body. And she runs marathons all the time. And she's always just saying to people, exercise is not about losing weight. It's about enjoying who you are. It's about being with the body you've got. It's about giving you endorphins today.
And exercise is only 20% of weight loss.
Right.
You can't out-exercise a bad diet.
No, you can't.
So,
right.
I think we have to remove the idea that exercise is for weight loss. Exercise is for so many other things.
For your mental health, your physical health.
Yeah. Joy. And finding one that suits you. When going through school, I had a period every week because I didn't want to do PE games, because I didn't want to go outside in a mini skirt in the winter in Ireland and play hockey.
Big. Yeah, right. And the cold. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't want to be in the rain playing hockey. But maybe if we did yoga, maybe it might have been a bit different. Maybe if we did weight training in school, it might have been a bit different, because I actually really like lifting weights. And I did. At 23 stone, I went to the gym quite regularly. But I thought going to the gym quite regularly was going to help me lose weight. But you can't do that and then eat 6,000 calories that day, unless you're a giant man trying to build muscle.
Right, yes.
But that's not what was not my goal,
No.
So I think it's about finding the exercise
you like, and maybe starting with walking and seeing where that leads you, or like you've done.
Like Stephen Fry always talks about how privileged he is that he gets to walk and listen to a book at the same time. What a gorgeous way of spending time is listening to something that you're really enjoying, and you get to walk out in nature or on a treadmill or whatever it might be.
Yeah, my joy is I run and I listen to the birds.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I also listen to podcasts, but there's something about, if I'm in my plunge pool in the back garden after I've had my run and I can just hear the birds going nuts in the trees, I'm like, I'm alive to hear this. I saw that you have an ADHD diagnosis.
Yes.
How much do you think that has played into your issues with food or not? What's the connection, if there is one?
I think there is a connection, but I think I don't believe that I was overweight purely because of ADHD. And, you know, with ADHD, it's a lack of dopamine and you're always looking for a dopamine hit. And food gives you a dopamine hit.
Right.
And there's probably a percentage chance in that. But I think for me, it was more to do with the trauma and use it as an addiction of using to deal with that. So, but it was probably most likely a combined version. But I also believe them. I don't quote me on this, but I believe that ADHD symptoms can be heightened by trauma. And I had a traumatic birth with Brannock. So I believe, and post-birth and postnatal depression. And I believe I know my ADHD symptoms ramped up. Like they amplified incredibly after having him. So while I have always had ADHD, but I've only recently been diagnosed, I think that my ADHD has been exacerbated in the last 2 years.
What do you do to treat your ADHD?
I take medication.
Right.
And I do a couple of...
And you do all of your self-care stuff?
Exactly. And I try and like do a couple of techniques, like working with somebody on certain things that helps me to keep focused. And with filming, I hire somebody once a month to do a day where we can film, because I'll know that within an hour of doing it, I get apathy. It's one of my big things with ADHD. I get apathy for something that I previously really liked, or procrastination. And I'll end up not doing it or stop doing it. But if somebody's there and I paid them, then I'll keep doing it. I'll finish it off.
So you're being accountable to someone.
Exactly. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. If you could go back in time and speak to 5-year-old you from the position of now being 37 with the lights on behind your eyes, the blue light, what would you say to that little thing, that little 5-year-old you?
I would hug her and I would tell her that it's okay and that you are valuable, that you don't have to be anything except you. And just give her a hug and let her know that she is a valuable person.
That is beautiful. We have a viewer question,
okay,
for the two of us to kind of talk about. And the question is this, it's from someone called Jessie.
Hi, Jessie.
What other than weight have you shed? Ooh, I know, great question.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Thank you for not asking how many calories or what do I do with my loose skin. That's what I normally get.
It's a great question, isn't it? So what other than weight have you shed in, I suppose, in this journey you've been on?
The expectations of other people.
So living to those expectations, you've shed that.
Shed that. Negative self-talk is the biggest one. I think through shedding the negative self-talk, I've gained freedom. It's removing all those things that I thought I was supposed to do, those expectations I thought I was supposed to have. Shedding those and removing those and living a life of freedom.
Oh, and that is like, I have this image of you kind of spreading your wings.
Yeah.
And flying.
In one of my first therapy sessions, just before losing weight, we did an exercise where I connected to my inner self and I visualized unzipping my body and stepping out and dancing out. And that's what I did. And just removing those, I shed the baggage of what living a negative self-talk fueled life.
You know, it's almost with you like that weight you were carrying was just, I don't use the word just lightly, but was simply a manifestation of all of those negative beliefs.
That's exactly what it was.
That you had about yourself.
I literally built a barrier between myself and the world with food. And my body was the manifestation of how I felt about myself.
You know, it's interesting because as someone who's, as I've said, you know, battled with body image and weight stuff, you know, for most of my life. And I'm in so much of a peaceful place now. I'm thinking about that question myself, you know, what have I shed? I've definitely shed the idea that I need to be a size 10 because that's not how my body's made. I've definitely shed the idea that I need to lose any weight because actually I don't. I don't want to. I find them so boring. Diets are so boring. Yeah. But I've also shed the idea that freedom is eating anything I want, all that I want, anytime I want. That's actually not freedom. For me, freedom is I'm going to eat 3 meals a day. I might have a snack if I need one. And then I'm not going to think about food in between.
And then I might go out for a big dinner one day and really enjoy myself.
Absolutely.
Like Vince and I did last night.
And that will not impact what I eat the day after.
Nor impact my belief on myself.
Right.
That's freedom.
That is freedom. And that has only come about from stepping outside of the diet trap. So I've shed this idea that I need to change my body. That's what I think I do not need to. That doesn't mean I don't exercise and go to the gym and want some more muscles, because actually I'd still like to be able to sit down on the loo when I'm eating and get up.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd quite like the muscles
or
for
be
that.
able to walk or
be
up
able
and
to walk
downstairs.
or keep my pelvic floor intact. And, you know, all of that. And, and I want to still be able to wear strappy dresses without, feeling like my arms are flapping around all over the place. Although they probably will, it's coming. But I'm going to hold on for as long as I can. Yeah, but I've shed the idea that I have to make my body smaller. And as a result, I can kind of eat 3 meals a day and enjoy them.
Yeah.
Who knew?
I know.
Who bloody knew?
Absolute
if anyone's watching this and they think, as well, I just want to sort of say, if anyone's watching this and they think that being thin is going to make them happy.
It's not.
Like, it's not. It's doing the work on yourself, learning to, oh golly, it's so hackneyed, but learning to love yourself, dropping the self-hate. That's what gives you happiness in this beautiful life. And then, as with you, you're such a shining example. Your body then marries up with your thoughts.
And I also want to say to people that if they want to lose weight, that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
That's because I think there is that kind of shame that comes now.
Yeah.
You can't win.
We cannot win. We cannot bloody win.
But it's okay if you want to lose weight, and it's okay if you don't want to.
Yeah.
It's your decision. It's your body. You have body autonomy.
Somebody said to me once, are your decisions kind and loving and honest? So is this kind, loving and honest? So if I want to lose weight because it feels like it's kind to me and it's loving to me and it's an honest, kind of based on...
If you're being honest with yourself.
If you're being honest with myself, go for it. If, however, it's kind, loving and honest to learn to love the body you're in, because actually you know that, I could get myself down to a size 10, but my body would ping back up to a 14 because that's where it's comfortable, then what's the point? That's just the merry-go-round.
I like that.
Do not want to be on that merry-go-round. So is it kind, loving and honest?
Yeah.
Should we leave it there?
I think so, Jo.
It's so good to talk to you.
And to you as well. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Oh.